Hello friends, welcome back to this exciting course on asynchronous microservices with email webhook. In this course, you'll master the art of building efficient, scalable, and decoupled microservices that communicate seamlessly using RabbitMQ and MassTransit packages. I'll walk you through a real-world scenarios involving three key projects. These are Product API, Order API, and Email Webhook. Each of these microservices will connect to RabbitMQ, enabling smooth and asynchronous data flow across the system. Why asynchronous microservices? I think maybe you'll be asking yourself. Well, imagine a situation where a customer places an order on your system. In a synchronous system, the Product API and the Order API with the email notification service will all have to communicate in a tightly coupled manner. If any of these services experience delays or downtime, it can lead to bottlenecks, degraded performance, or even system failure. Let's say a system A, that is the Product API, needs to communicate data with another API. If the other API is not available, it will be stuck, right? And this will cause a performance issue. But with the help of asynchronous microservices, this solves the problem by decoupling the communication between services. Here's how it's going to work. With the Product API, when a new product is added, the Product API publishes the product data to the RabbitMQ without waiting for other services to process it. This ensures that the Product API remains responsive and can handle more requests efficiently. Now, when you go to the Order API, it also consumes the product data from the RabbitMQ and saves it to the database and prepares the order details. When a customer places an order, this API publishes the order information back to RabbitMQ. This method allows the Order API to quickly respond to the customer, even if other services take time to process the order. What of the Email Webhook? This service listens to RabbitMQ for order data, retrieve the necessary email information, and send out a notification using its internal email service. The beauty of this approach is that the email sending process is entirely independent of the order processing, meaning that even if the email service is slowed down, the order process is unaffected. Maybe now you have an idea of what you're going to be doing and what asynchronous microservice is about. But what of Webhook? I know you'll be wondering what exactly is Webhook. A Webhook is a way for one system to send real-time data to another whenever an event occurs. This is like push notification for servers. Instead of pulling or asking for update, a Webhook listens for a specific event and triggers an action when those events happen. In our case, the Email Webhook is a service that listens for order-related events published to the RabbitMQ. As soon as it receives the order data, it triggers an email notification to the customer. This ensures that the customer gets timely update about their order without the need for manual intervention or complex communication chain. So by the end of you sticking around to this course and watching it to the end, you have a comprehensive understanding of how to build and manage asynchronous microservices using RabbitMQ and MassTransit. You will learn how to design a system that is resilient, scalable, and easy to maintain. We will cover everything from setting up RabbitMQ and integrating MassTransit to implementing Webhook and ensuring smooth communication between these services. The next question is, why do you have to take this course? Well, asynchronous microservices are the future of distributed systems, offering flexibility and efficiency that synchronous system simply can't match. Whether you are a developer looking to enhance your skills or tech enthusiasts eager to explore the world of microservices, this course will provide you with tools and knowledge you need to succeed. So let's dive in and get started on this journey to mastering asynchronous microservices with email webhooks. So now make sure you have your Visual Studio 2022 or higher created. And with this, we're going to create a solution. We're going to be adding the third project as discussed on product API, other API, and an empty web application. That is what we're going to be using for our webhook. So let's create a new project, and let's first create our solution. So choose blank solution, give it a name. So I will say Async Microservice. Maybe with webhook. Okay, so I'd like to add demo. Choose a location for the project. Now let's create this. Now we have this. We're going to add third project. Add new project. So we need an API. So I'll say this is product API. Let's create this. Let's add the other API. Let's add the last one. That is a webhook. And here talking about an email service. So we need ASP Netcode empty project. You can find that from here. Maybe web projects, empty one. Is it here? We can go for web. And maybe you can have an empty project, this. So we can click on that. And there's going to be notification, or let's say there's an email notification webhook. So let me click on next and also add this project. So let's go in there and install the needful packages that we need for each of this project. So when we have a look with the, let's say, the email notification service, all of these are going to communicate to the RabbitMQ and MassTransit. So we need to install these packages to each of these. Let's do that. So from our product API, let's right click on dependencies and manage the get packages. Let's search for MassTransit. Go to browse tab, MassTransit. Now we need MassTransit and MassTransit.RabbitMQ. So let's have this packages. Okay, so after we are done installing these packages, we need EF core, we need SQLite. We're going to be using an SQLite for each API, and also we're going to install the tool for database migration. Let's do that. Let's install SQLite. We have tools, so let's install this. Now let's install SQLite. So let's click on Product API, and now we have these packages installed. We can grab all this since we need all of these in the other API. Let's grab this. Let's make sure we save everything. Now in the other API, we can right click on this, go to Unload Project. Then let's add these packages here. Click on Save, and I right click on this, go to Relate Project with Dependencies. We have this package also restored here. Now with the webhook, we need only the MassTransit and a RabbitMQ. So let's grab these packages. Then we do same to this. So with this, let's add item group. This should come within the project. And now add these packages here. You save it. And let's reload project with dependencies. Now we can rebuild solution to make sure that everything is intact. Also, for our email service, we will need another package which will enable us to send an email. And do you have any package in mind? Well, make MailKit. That is what I've been using. So let's install this. But in case you have any package as well, which is nice and easy to implement, you can let us know. So let's have a MailKit. Once you're done with this, the next thing that we need to do is, both projects, the 3 projects that we have here, are going to be using the common models. So in this case, it is appropriate to put or to add one shared library which will be shared among the 3 projects. So let's do that. Let's add a new project to this. So I click on Solution, Add New Project, and here you're going in for C# library, and this is going to be shared project. So let's add that. Now we can be adding this project to the 3 here. So dependencies, add project reference. Then I'll add a shared. I'll do same to the API. Lastly, to the webhook, that's the notification. All right, so let's come to the shared model, and now in here, let's first work with the product. So with the product, we need to create, let's have a folder, name it as entities or DB set, any name at all that you want to give to identify this as an entity to the database. You can do it. So I'm going to say this is product. I'll say models, and I'll say product. Okay, so with this product, I think you should have the P should be uppercase. This should be public as well. And the next thing that we need to do is we need to define maybe 3 properties. That is what we're going to have in a microservice. Okay, so I'm going to say this is public, or I can type in the prop, and I have that. First thing is ID. I believe you know it. Then every product is going to have name, isn't it? So I'm going to have a product name. Then lastly, I'm going to have 3. I'm going to have the price, which is decimal. Then I'm going to say that this is a product price. Now, since it is decimal, let's provide this column or this attribute, and that is column. And now we're saying that there's a type name. The type name here, that is decimal 18.2. Okay. So we have this simple one for our model, okay, for our product model. Okay, so let's go in there to the product. Let's add our another folder to the data. Since we're going to work with the API product first, let's add a DB context class. So I'm going to say specifically product DB context. Now with this context is going to inherit from a DB context, which is coming from the entity framework call. In that we can grab this, create a constructor, pass an option. Let's use this. Then with this option, we need a product DB context. Let's have our DB set. So DB set, which takes in the product model that we created, and in that let's include the namespace, and we need to specify the table name, and I believe we know it's product. Well, let's register this. But before we do that, let's create our connection string in the app-setting.json. So since we're going to be using SQLite, connection string is quite simple. So let's say this is default, and now we need to specify our data source. So this data source, let me say this is product. Since it is db.db, since it is product, I would like to make it product db.db. You can also change it to any name at all. It's still going to work, right? So now that we have this, we need to register the settings in here. So we say build.services.addb context, and let's specify our product db context in here. In that we need an option. Now with this option, we're going to say that this option is going to use an SQLite, and here we need our builder. Let me put this on a new line. We need our builder.configuration configuration.get connection string. And what is the name of the connection? That is default. Save that. We are good now, so we can rebuild only this product API, since that is the current project we're working on. We can rebuild that and perform migration to this to create a database for us. It is set. So package manager console, pull them out. Make sure you have your product API selected in here. Now when you come to default project, make sure same. Then I'm going to say add migration. I would like to use first for the first time. After that, we're going to update the database to create a database and the tables and everything for us. That is set. So update database. Yeah, this is done. So when you check, you can see we have a database in here. So as we've done to this, we're going to do same to the other API as well, right? So let's go to the models. Let's create the next one, class, which is going to be order. Now with this order, you know, it should be public. That is the first thing to touch on. Aside from that, the next thing we're going to do here is, since we're going to be saving database, we need an ID, and I believe you've said that, or you've even done that, isn't it? Well done. Aside from this, we need a product ID. So you're going to make a reference in here. We're going to say product ID. because when you make an order, you need to select, in actual sense, you're going to display our product. By saving this database, you don't need to save the product name, which is quite long. Save only the ID. Okay, so you can have a reference in that. You can go to the product list and I'll make a query on that. Use a where clause or first or default, and you can grab that specific product by the ID record. So now with this, we ask the person how many would you want to buy. So we're going to say that this is quantity. Start from quantity. You want to put up maybe a date, purchase, whatever. Okay, so I have this. So I have my product ID, quantity, and now date. So all the user needs here is to select a product ID. Aside from that, type in the quantity that you want for the price to be seen already. So we can just click on it. Then you can have a quantity and move on. We are not actually adding UI to this. Okay, we are building the back end. So let's also create a DB context for this. To the same order API, we can add our folder as data. Let's add order DB context. Add a class, which is order DB context, which same thing as the product. So this should have from product DB context. Let's generate constructor and pass in our order DB context. Now we have our DB sets. So let's have, and this is order. Include the namespace, which this is orders. Now within this, in the microservice era on this DB order API, we want to save a copy of the product data. As soon as the product publishes a record, a message to the RabbitMQ, you want to listen and then grab a copy and then keep it. We're doing this in the near future in case the product API is down and we want to get product detail. We already have a copy, so we need not to be calling the product API for that record. We can go to a database in here, grab it, and now use it, making this independent. So let's have a copy of this, and we're going to say this is product, and this is product. Okay, so we now save this. And one thing about this is when using this service, we cannot be using, we can decide to keep this. Okay, you can decide to keep this, and this gives you the automatic ID. That's an increasing of 111, right? So you can decide to keep this. But normally it's advisable to use a different ID for this. Let's say for the product. The product that we're going to have in the product API should have maybe GUID as an ID, as a primary key. Then when you go to the other API too, it should also be the same GUID. So you can just cross-check, so you don't have any errors. Okay, but let's maintain this for now because this is also going to work. So now that we have this, let's create our connection string. And that is default as well. We maintain the same name, which is data source. And here talking about an order db.db. Okay, let's register connection string in the program file. So use SQLite, then builder dot configuration dot get connection string, and in there let's specify our default. We are good. Let's also rebuild this project and perform migration. Pull package manager console, make sure other API is selected for project startup project and our default project. Now we're going to add migration. Let's update the database. So now that we are done with each, having a database set up for the other API and the product API, let's go and create a simple or small repo, and also same repo for both, right? We're going to have a product API and also the other API repo. So let's do that. The same thing, I click on product API. Now you're going to add a new folder. I'm going to say repositories. In here, let's have our interface. So we're going to add new item, and I'm going to say iProduct. Let's create only two interfaces here. Okay, two interfaces only. So we have our tags, but before that we need to create maybe a service response, which will be responsible for communicating our database and our users, between database and users. So let's have, maybe I have to create another folder. Let's create another folder in a shared product, and I'll say DTO, since we're going to be using this service response all the time in our project, maybe in the API and on the other, so we can put it here. This is service response. Now with this service response, it is just a record. Now this record takes in flag and now a message. So default set this to false. And I'll set this to null. So this is our record. Let's go back to the interface, and that should be tags. We have our service response. Then let's say add product synchronous. So within this we need to have our product. Then we say product. Then we have our, it could be less, it could be enumerable, and product get our product. So we have two interfaces here, and that is what we want to create. Let's create the implementation for this, which should be a class, and that is product repo. Now in the product repo, we need to inject our product DB context. And that is context, whereby it inherits the I interface. Let's implement the interfaces that we have. Currently we have two interfaces. So we're going to say that let's go straight ahead and I'll add that. So product.add. Let's add this product coming in. Let's save changes. So that is an context dot save changes async. Then for now, let's return new service response, which should be true, and now something beautiful like product added successfully. Well, we can do that. You can also customize this, and I believe you've done that already, isn't it? Let's do the same for the get. So for the get product, let's first get our product. So product equals, you're gonna have an await, which is taking a context, has a product. Then let's have a to list async. After that, let's return this product that we have, saying it is coming in the form of a list. Okay. So we have our repo created. We can grab the interface, go to the program file, and we can register that it down here. So build that.services. .add scope, paste in your interface, and add implementation. So that is a product repo. Close it, save it. So as we're done with this, we need to create a controller, and that is the next thing that I believe you were thinking about. So let's have it. And this should be product API empty1. Maybe this should be a product. You can give it a name as product controller. Okay, so we're having this product controller, which is an API/product. So let's have our post method, HTTP post. Now with this, okay, we have our public async task. Let's make this generic, so I action results, although we can specify as service response, okay, to make sure it returns exactly what we need. What do you think? I think as soon as we have a service response, then it's better we do that. So let's have an action results, taking this service response specifically, then add product. It takes in the payload of product and an instance of product. I think you should have another closing. Okay. So we having, okay, so we're having a service response add product, then we have a product model in here. All that you're going to be doing here is we say there's a response equal to, you're going to have an await. Before that, let's inject our interface, so I product. Then we're going to say this is product interface. Now with this interface, let's consume. Let's grab this, we say interface dot add product async, passing this product. Remember that this is return a response, so we can cross-check the response here. We're gonna say that if this response, or we can use this short the ternary one, we're gonna say that return response dot flag, that is return response is true, then okay or bad request response. We can do same. Now let's go to the get, so http get, and here talking about the public async task, which takes in action result of lists of what product, then gets product. Let's also use lambda, which is product interface. Let's have an await keyword, product interface dot get our product. Put this in a new line. That is all that we need to do. 2 endpoints and we are done. Okay, Let's give this product API a try and check it out at the endpoint. So let's run this. Yep, so we have our endpoint created beautifully here. All right, so this is working. Let's go to the other one, the other API, and make sure we have same in the other API project. So solution, and in the other API, let's create a folder and I name it as maybe repository. Let's have an interface, which should be, what are you thinking? iOrder, right? Or something different. Okay, so you have an iOrder. Now with this iOrder interface, we're going to be having 3 interfaces. What are they? Before we do that, we should have order summary, because you want to return everything. You want to display everything to the user, right? When the user make a request to a specific product, we want to display the product name, not the product ID, because the user is going to select the product and the user is waiting to see the product name, not the ID of the product. We can actually add the product ID, but it is not in the interest of this user to see the product ID, just the product ID. Rather, he wants to see the product name. This is a product that I made an order for, isn't it? So we need to have the product name in another model. Maybe it's a record, and we're going to take in the price, some properties of this order. So let's go to a DTO, and now with this, let's create a class. We can name this class as order summary. Now with this order summary class, we can make this as record, which should be public, and that is record. So with this, maybe let's remove these 2 guys down here. We can terminate this. Okay, so in here we're going to have an ID for this, and that's going to be the other ID. We can have the product ID, and that is the product ID. Well, we also need to display product name, and we need maybe the product price. Remember that there is a unit price of the product. Then we need quantity. Now this quantity, it is not a product quantity, rather it is a quantity of purchase from the user. Then we need a decimal. We can say this is total amount. Then lastly, we need a date time, maybe the date which this order was made. Okay, so this is our order summary. We can add more to this, right? This is just a simple one to let you know exactly what we're going to do in. So we have this. Let's save. Let's go to the interface again, and with this, with the iOrder, which is not a class, rather an interface, we want to have the first thing is add order. So here you have a task which takes in a service response. I hope you remember that. So add order or make an order, whatever order, you can add it. So add order async, which takes in the order. So that is the first one. The next one is we need a task. Now this task is, you can get a list of order, and that is get all orders async. Now we need last one, which will be, we want to get order summary. We're getting there so we can send, we can email the person. We can call our webhook and I'm passing this data. So get order summary async. We have these three interfaces. Let's create implementation to handle that, which is going to be order repo. Let's inject our order DB context. Which also inherit from this I order. Let's implement all the three interfaces. Now for order, it's quite simple. So context dot orders dot add, then this order coming in. You can save the changes. After saving the changes, the next thing that we need to do here is we need to publish this. Well, when you go to the product API, after a product is being added, we need to publish it to the RabbitMQ server. Okay, so let's include that before we forget it and have error in our code. So we go to our product API. Now from the product repo, let's inject the interface and publish it. So we need iPubliser endpoint. That's the interface that we need, which is coming from the MassTransit. So iPublish endpoint this. Let's say this is publish endpoint. Now let's grab this, and quite simple. After we're done adding, we want to publish it before we return anything to the user. So publish. And now what are you going to publish? It's not this product. So this product is coming from the shared.d2. No, it's not shared.models. That is where it's coming from. It should be an await. So let's make sure we set that. Great. So this is going to publish it as soon as any product is being added. Let's go to the other two, and now we're going to do same to the other. We're also going to publish the other as soon as we're done saving. Put it online, put it out there, broadcast it. Anybody who has subscribed to this can retrieve it and now make some magic with it. You see? So let's also handle that. But before we can continue with this, let's first get this all orders. So maybe this get all orders is quite simple. We can have orders is equal to, we're going to have an await, then a context that we have, dot orders dot toList async, and let's return orders. You can use lambda to make it short. Well, this also works. Let's go to the order summary. To order summary, what we're going to do, let's first get orders. So we're going to say there's an order here is await. We're going to have our context dot orders dot first or default. The reason why I am using this is as soon as we are done adding order and we are done pushing this order to our RabbitMQ server for notification to be done, we don't want to keep this. You want to clear that. So that's the reason why I'm using first or default. So if you make an order now, it's going to be sent. After sending, it's going to clear that from the database, then pave way for the new one to come. After the new one also being sent to the RabbitMQ for email notification, it also get rid of that and I'm waiting for the next one. That's what I'm using here. Okay, but you can also keep it. So when you keep it, it means you have to make a search of that specific order using the ID, because you have an ID also in the property, so you can make an ID search, which is the primary key, and well, it's going to also work. Once you have this order in here, we can also get our product, because remember that as soon as we make a product addition, we push it, and this API service for this order is going to subscribe to that, so it will listen to the product add and keep it a copy of this in the database. So we can also grab the database here without going to or making a call, which is synchronous call to that, to the process or the product API. So this is independent. It doesn't depend on anybody. So we're going to say this is an await. We're going to have our context then dot product, then to list async. So now we have this. We can say that var, we're gonna have a summary. So we say product summary. Or before we do that, we can say this is product info. So product info, we're gonna say that is equal to the product that we have in here. We can make find. Now this X maps to that the product maps to, we want to get the ID which maps to this order has a product ID in it, and that is you want to grab the specific product info being used in the order. So after we have this, we want to return new order summary. Now this order summary, it takes in an ID. Now with this ID, it should be the order ID, right? So order.id. The next one, it takes in what? Product name. So here we need product info dot name. The next one takes in product price, which is coming from product info dot price. The next one takes in quantity, which is coming from order dot quantity. The next one takes in total amount, and now for total amount we need to calculate ourselves. So we're going to say that the order dot quantity the user brought in multiplied by the product info dot price, that's the unit price, you have the total amount. And now date in here takes in, there's an order date, isn't it? So we're going to have a look at that. So order dot dates, that is what we need. Okay, so we have this, but let's say you're having an issue. Dates, there's no argument, decimal, and the required parameter date of the order summary. Order summary has dates. Okay, I think we skipped one. We need a product ID. Order summary has product ID, so we skip it, and I believe you've done that. So product ID, and this can come from this order.product ID, or it can come from product info.id, anyone. Okay, we have a product summary, and this is going to get us the product information using the product ID. Make a query and now get us a product info that we need. Now let's go to the add. We're going to be using this product summary in there, because as soon as an order is being made, we want to get this order info and now push it to the RabbitMQ server, right? And now when we get that, the notification web is also going to be listened. As soon as it gets it, quickly it's going to prepare something and send it. Okay, so after we are done saving this order, let's make this order summary. So let's get order summary. Now this is equal to await. This get order summary, which takes in no parameter. We're going to get the default one and now process it. So now we have this order summary. What else can we do again? We want to build a body that you want to send. Okay, so you want to have the product in a list. So maybe product name, price, quantity that you made, product name, and maybe thank you. So we need to build something for this. So let's build order email body. Let's have a class for that. So maybe down here, this should return a string. So this is, you can make this as private string, and with this we're going to say build order email body. Now with this needs some parameters to work with. What are the things that we need here? Maybe we need an order ID. We need product name. We would also need maybe the price. We will need quantity. That's the quantity, order quantity. So order quantity, then we have a total amount. Okay, so we need this. Now in here, let's have our string builder. New string builder. String builder, you can have it. Okay. Now let's first set the header with bold text. So maybe you can say there's a header. Now with the header, we're saying sb.append line. Now with this line, saying it's going to be bold, we can specify an h1. So that is h1. And let's also make it strong. Not string, strong. Okay, then we're going to say this is other information. Let's close it. So strong comes first. Then h1 also comes. So we have a header nicely created. Let's have a display details. So we're going to say sb.append line. Now with this line, let's use this to interpolation. So we're going to provide a variable in this. This is, and this should be also strong. Then we're going to say this is order ID. Now with this order ID, let's close this. And we pass in order ID, not this. That's an order ID. After that, let's close this paragraph. Okay, now we're going to list the product info. Okay, so, or let's say the order info. So let's have sb.append line, and in that we want to build an h2. So let's say this is order item. Then the next one, sb dot append line. We want to build an ordered list. We need to close this. Then, at the end, we have to close it. Okay. So in the middle, it should be an li. Li open, li close, isn't it? So within this li, we want to have the name. This should be a string interpolation, so we can specify the product name. Product name. We need next. From the product name, we need a price. And this is price. We need quantity. And that is quantity. Here it is product quantity. Or is it order quantity? Order quantity. Then we need a total amount. total amount. Okay, so after that we close this. Now after closing this, we want to say thank you message, isn't it? So let's have append line to SB dot, it should be paragraph. Thank you for your order. So that's our thank you message. We add it at the bottom. Then convert this to string and I return. Okay, so now that we have this built, we can go ahead to our order. Let's grab the name and we specify the properties that you need, the parameters. So you say this content for our email. Then you're going to say that this is build email body, which takes in the order ID, and this order.id, it takes in the product name, so you can get it from this even order summary, that is order summary.id, order summary.product name, we take in price.price, then not again quantity, so from quantity we can get this last and total amount, so you're gonna have total amount, and maybe we can have date, right? Date, we should add a date as well because you need to specify the date purchase. That means when we come to this, we need to specify a date. So date time, we takes in date objects, and now the quantity, and maybe after we are done here, thank you for order, we can add date to it, or we can add date before the order. What do you think? Let's add order date. Okay, so date dot date, or we can even specify the time, because since the date time we can specify time as well. So order date ordered, I think date ordered, yes. Let me remove this. All right, and now let's go to, so we have it in here, right? All right, so this is going to generate our content, and now the next thing that we need to do here is we're going to publish this. So before you publish this, let's inject our iPublisher endpoint, iPublisher endpoint, and let's grab this. Then we're saying that this publisher endpoint dot publish, you want to publish, let's make this as an await. So before we publish this, since this is going to be working with an email webhook, we want to create another DTO to handle that. So here, let's add a new class. Now this class is going to be, let's say, email DTO. Now this email DTO, we're going to be, I'm not going to provide the specific user email because we did not take the user info. So we're going to hard coded some default email for our testing, but you can have the user data, user record, whereby you pass in the email as well, so you can use it in the email service. For now, there is a public, is a record, which takes in the title, maybe a string title, and the content. Let's remove this. Let's go back to the repo, and in here we're going to say that new email detail, which takes in the title. So what title are we going to provide? This title will be used as a subject in the email. So we're going to say that this is other information. Then for the content, that is the content we have here. Okay. So after we are done this, we want to clear, you want to remove, after we are done processing this and I'll send it to the RabbitMQ, we want to go to database and I'll clear the other detail that we have in there because we are done. You want to keep that. You don't want to keep records here. You want to clear that. So in that, we go for await. Maybe we can have a method known as clear order table. Let's grab this, come down, which is private, async task, clear order table. And now within that, what can we do? We're going to say that this context dot audit dot remove. What are you going to remove? Await context dot audit dot first or default. After that, save changes. Okay. Then after we are done with that, what can we do? Let's return new service response. Now you know this is going to be true, isn't it? Then we're going to say that order placed successfully. So before getting this, email also will get a message. So the person's email will get a message, and you're also going to get this message from our site. So both our site and our email, there's going to be a message, but the email is going to have the product details as we specify in our string builder. Okay. Now we are done with this. The next thing that we're going to do here is let's go in there and build our controller for this. So we go to the controller from our other API controllers. Let's add new controller API, new one, and here we're going to say this is order. So order controller, and now with this we need, I think maybe we need 2 or even 1 endpoint. You can have that. So let's have the main one. What we need, it is the post. So HTTP post, and that is a place order. Let's make it a public async task, which takes in a specific type of action or action result of service response. So add order, which takes in order. In that you have a response, await. We need to inject the order interface. So I order interface. So I order. Then we have our order interface. So let's grab that. Order interface dot add order. Pass in this order. After that, let's check and return the same response. So we can go back to this product controller as we did in here. Let's grab that, go to the order. We don't want to do it. Let's go and skip. Let's copy and paste to skip that. Okay, and maybe we can have a look at get others so we can have a look at the orders. But well, it doesn't matter. We don't need that for now. We need only this, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that our order data table contains the current order. So order time is going to be 1 since we are implementing cleared off. I hope you remember. Yep. All right. So now that we have this, let's run. Let's make sure we build this project too. All right, so it is done to succeeded. We can run this. So let's test it. Run the other API. Let's see if we're gonna have just a single endpoint. All right, so you can see we have it here, and we can make an order with the ID, product ID, quantity, and our date. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do here is let's go in there and build our product. That's the webhook, the email service. You know, we have already installed the package that we need for this email notification. So let's go and create a service to handle that. So this is going to be service. And in that service, let's create a class. This could be an interface. So email service. Now with this email service, we actually want to have only a single endpoint. Okay. So with this should return something like string. This is string, and here you're going to have send email, where it takes in this email DTO. Then we say this is email. Okay. Let's create a repo. So email service, where it takes in the email interface, implement the interface, and in here let's have our email. So this email is equal to new message coming from MemKit. After that, we need to specify the from, to, and subject and body, right? Because before you send an email, you need all these 3 components to come together. So we're going to have an email dot from. Now with this email from, you want to maintain this. So mailbox address, we can use .pass. Then in here, you'll be specifying the email address here. Okay. So from, I think as should come. Then we need to do the same to this. So let's make a copy of this. We say this is to who, we pass the email in there. Let's add subjects. Now the subject here is coming from as a title. So email.title. Then let's have the body. So, let me close this. So email dot, there is a body. Now this body, we're going to make it as new text part. So we can specify the type. Is it HTML? Is it text? Whatever it is, you can pass it in here. So here you can specify text formats. Do you have it? Text formats coming from the MemKit. Then we're gonna say that if you have a lot, we're gonna say there's not rich text, there's nothing. It's an HTML because you know in our body we haven't the tags are included. So you want to make sure it's an HTML so you can get rendered. You get it? Okay. Then once you specify that, you need to specify the text, which is equal to this email D2 coming in dot content. Close it. Let's put this in a new line. Okay. So the next thing that we're going to do here is we need to be using SMTP client. So let's create a copy of this. So we can use a simple short using for this. So SMTP is equal to new SMTP client. That is this guy. Now SMTP, make sure you don't type SMPT, it's TP. Alright, so .connect. So SMTP.connect. So with the connect, we need to specify the host. So in here we need to specify the host. So the host says we're also going to specify the host, don't worry. And aside from that, we need to specify the port. Defaultly, you're going to be using 587 for the port. And also we need secure socket options. Let's use start TLS because the host that you're going to be using, it has the socket as TLS. We have SSL, we have TLS. So this is a TLS, and here, based on the host that you want to specify, each of the hosts comes with its own sockets option, right? So as for this, I know you're going to be using 587, and that host, the connection here, the socket here, it is a TLS. So that's the reason why we're using that in here. If you want to use SSL, it is in there. So SSL, it is there. So .start TLS. Okay. Then we need to authenticate. So with authenticate, you're going to say SMTP dot, and here it is authenticate. The reason why we are not getting this is because of using this. I'm not using the system.mail. This is a default one. You want to be using the mail kit. So control period, select the mail kit. Take note, system.net, that's the first one to pop up. Don't use that. Use this mail kit. And you can see auth been equal. So the authenticate, and now with this authenticate, we need to specify the email address and also the password. Maybe cancellation token could be none. Maybe in case you want to specify cancellation token, maybe some process happens and you want to cancel the notification sending, then you can provide this cancellation token as a payload. As soon as you call this, it can just abort this. For now, let's maintain as a default one as none, as you can see. Then SMTP dot, we want to send this email. After sending email, although we are using the using statement, which is get disconnect, but it's advisable we manually do that. So disconnect, make sure it is true. Then return. We don't want to return anything to the user for the user to know that we've sent the user email, right? All that I want to do here is the user going to see, okay, order has been placed successfully, but in the user's email, there's something waiting. But for the purpose of this, I want you to know that the email has actually sent, so we want to display this. So email sent. Okay, now we have our email service. Let's go in there and register. We go to our program.cs, and in here, let's register this. So builder.services.add singleton transient, whatever. I would like to use a scope which will be available for the entire scope. And I'm going to say I email service, which takes in email service. Okay. Save that. So we need to create, now you know the email webhook is going to be a consumer, which will be waiting for a response. As soon as something happens, then it gets fired. So it's on timing bomb, right? So we need to create this consumer service so it can get connected to the RabbitMQ server for listening. So let's go to the same folder, the same project. Let's add a folder to this. And I'm going to say this is consumer. Now this consumer, I want to give it a name, webhook consumer. It's a webhook. So give it that. You can make it an email webhook consumer, whatever name that you want to set up. It doesn't matter. Just have the content set and it's going to work. So with this webhook consumer, what we're going to be doing here is this, we're going to pass in HTTP client. Now the reason why we're passing HTTP client here is we're going to make a call to itself. Now you're going to return, when you check the program, return minimal API expose. You want to call this, and before you can call this, you must make a call. Or there's other way out. You can also check. You can also go in there and I'll use a service that we have created straight ahead and I'll go. But when you do that here, if you want to specify authentication, making a call to this makes it more easier because you can check from the context. You can create a middleware to handle that. You can create a whole lot of filters against it. Okay, but if you want to use the service, it means you are limited in some scenarios, but for simple ones, you can use a service. But with this, we want to use the endpoint instead. So let's go to the webhook consumer. So let's create a client. And now this has to inherit from iConsumer coming from the transit. iConsumer is coming from the transit. Now this consumer takes in the email DTO. Let's include the namespace. Within this, we need to, as soon as it consumes, it needs to return a context. So this context, you want to extract the message out of this context. So what are you going to do? You're going to say that this result is equal to await. Then client dot, let's use post as JSON async. And now let's go in there to this notification service. If you want to grab it, go to properties, line settings. It has this, so we can grab 7078. Let's grab that. Then let's have email webhook. That is the name that we're going to give. In that, let's specify this new email DTO, which takes in this context dot message dot title and also context dot message dot content. Then we want to make sure that this works. So we're going to say that results dot ensure success status code. So you know, in another scenario too, this is what you can do before you get this email, before you get this content, the current order info cleared from database. You want to wait for a response from this webhook. So after the webhook is being done, let's say successfully sent email, then it's also going to publish a response to the RabbitMQ. The other API also be listening to that response, and as soon as it gets a success response, it can go in there and now clear the content. Else, in case there's an issue in here, then the record or the other record has been cleared off. So there can be some issue with that. Although the information will still lie in there, the RabbitMQ, but well, the content is cleared. So you cannot process it again. So maybe you can do that. Okay, in a different scenario you can do that, but here we assume that everything is set and it's working. So as soon as it publishes it to the server as RabbitMQ, you're going to be waiting there for a consumer, whether this service is down or not. As soon as it comes up, it can go in there, subscribe to that, and now make a process to that request. Okay, so we have this set. Now let's go to our other API. We have to consume this other API as soon as this product make publish, right? As soon as this product add a product to edit table, we want to open a yes, and we want to listen. So we need to consume that. So let's create another folder in the other API, and trust me, this is going to be, I think, the last folder. Yes, let's have a look with this as consumer. And consumer, what is it going to consume? It's going to consume product. So I'm going to say this is product consumer. Now this product consumer is going to take in other DB context. Since you're going to want to save it to database, we say context, which takes in I consumer, and it comes in the form of product. Let's implement interface. Then as soon as we have this, we don't need to waste time at all. Let's say context dot product. Let's make this context. Dot product dot add context dot message. Then quickly await this context dot save changes. Here we don't want to return anything. Okay, this is done background, so don't return anything. We don't even want the product API to know that something is going on. Okay, so we are stealing it. We get it quick, fast, then we save it in there. Okay, so we have our consumer set. Now it is a time for us to connect to the microservice. Not the microservice, the RabbitMQ. Okay, so let's first connect the notification. But we did not build the API, the endpoint for this notification, right? We did not build the endpoint. So let's build that endpoint. And this should be app dot, this is not get, it's map post. And now with this post, remember that we specified, is it email webhook? Is that so? Do you remember from the consumer? We said that we need email webhook, right? So we go to our program, we make sure it is the same. Okay. And in here, we need to specify our intake as our payload. This will come from the body. So from body, okay, we need our email DTO, and now with this we say that it is email. Then we need our service as well. So I email service, email service. Okay, then the last one, we need to open it like that. So from body, we need to use Microsoft.mvc. All right, so let me put this here. So let's have our string results, because this is going to come out of results. We say it's equal to this email service dot send email, then return tax dot from results. Let's specify this results. That is all we need to do. Quite simple using minimal API. As far as we are done with this, let's go ahead and now put up our connection to our RabbitMQ in here. So we need to first add builder.services.add HTTP client. And now even with this client, we can go ahead and register this service, this client. Okay, so we know that this is going to be for a singleton or a scope. I think scope or singleton, the same as this. But I want to make sure that this client is, this HTTP service is registered specifically to this. In case you have any other service that you want a different configuration for HTTP service, then you can actually set it in there. When you make it like this, it becomes general, but well, you want to make it related to only this. The next thing that we have in here to do, let's go in and have our builder.services.add MassTransit. Which should come from the package that we installed. So it's come from add MassTransit. Think 1S. Which should come from, do we have the package in there? Let's check first. So from our dependencies, packages, yeah, we have MassTransit. So if this is not permitting us, then we need to add the namespace ourselves. Now let's see if it's going to work. Yes, you have this. Okay, so we say this x mass2. Let's close it. So x dot, let's add a consumer, and this consumer, it is webhook consumer. Aside from that, let's using RabbitMQ, and in here we need to specify the context, configuration, and with this we're going to say config.host. So we're going to be the host, since we are pointing to a local host. It is RabbitMQ. Then we have our local host. And now with this, we need a password. So you can specify your own password or use a default password. Okay. So this host and configuration. So let's say this is credentials. Let me do it well. So credentials. Now with this credentials, what are we going to specify? We can make it C for short, right? So that it won't be too long. Okay, so with this credential, what can we specify in here? Let's also open this. So we're going to say credential dot username. Cluster dot username. Now username is, we are using the default one, that is guest, and password the same thing. guest. Now let's close this. Okay, now the next thing to do here is config dot. Now we're going to receive an endpoint, so we are connecting to receive something from, and here we need to provide the queue name, and that is a, let's say there's an email that this queue name is going to be created. So email webhook, and let me add a queue to it. And within that, we need to also do some little configuration. So let's say e maps to. Now this e.configure. So configure consumer, you see it's over here. And now this consumer, it is webhook consumer. And in that we pass in the context, which is it contains a message. Now let's terminate this. Now as soon as you specify this, it's going to be known because you've added it. If you don't add it, you cannot use it here. You must add it and use. Save this beautifully. And let's also terminate this. Okay. So we can't have time to register this again do it one after the other. So let's grab all this. Then let's go to the other API. So other API program.cs file. Then in here, let's paste it. And let's have product consumer. Copy this, paste it. Okay, now this, instead of saying email queue product, the same configuration. Let's grab this. Now let's go to the publisher, which is going to be the product. So product API program.cs. Let's paste this. Then in here, what are we going to do? We are not going to consume anything, so we're going to make this simple. Let's remove this. Let's remove all this. That is it. It's not simple. Yes, it is. Okay, so let's save this. Let's go ahead and build our project. Let's build everything together. So now that we have all built, 4 succeeded, 0 failed, it tells you that everything is intact. The next thing we're going to do here is we're going to run this RabbitMQ server, and we can do that using an image, Docker image. So you have to make sure you have your Docker desktop package installed or app installed. If you don't have that, let me show you the link. The link is right here. So Docker desktop, whether you're using Mac or any version that you want to download, Mac, Windows and Linux, you can grab it from here. That is a link. I also put it in the video description, so you can just check it from there. When you have it, then the next thing to do here is you have to run the app. So let me run mine. So as you can see, mine is running with some few containers, but forget about these containers. The aim here is you have to make sure your engine is running. Okay. Now the next thing that we're going to do here is we're going to be creating a Docker Compose file. So let's right click on the project. We can add it anywhere. After that, we're going to move it to the solution folder. So add new item, and now with this, we're going to search for YAML file, this Docker Compose, so the first thing I'm going to do here is let's define the services that make up the application. Okay, so here we're going to say that this is services. Okay, the next thing is that let's define the RabbitMQ service. So this is RabbitMQ. Let's specify the Docker image to use for RabbitMQ with the management plugin. So we say this is the image, and this image should come here. Oh, that is the image should come. Okay, and now with this image, we need to use RabbitMQ version of 3.8 -management alpine. So ALPINE. Okay. Aside from this, we need to have the container name. Container name, it is still RabbitMQ. The next thing to do here is let's specify the ports. Now from the port, we need to expose the port of 5672 for the protocol, and also we need to expose 15672 for the UI. So this port should be okay. We have 5672, which maps to 5672, and that's for the protocol. The next one we need for the UI, we need 15672, 15672. Let's set our environment. Now with this environment, we need to use the username and the password that we specify. So let's say this is RabbitMQ _ default user. Now with this default user, let's say this is guest, and now we need to do same. So RabbitMQ _ default password, that is guest. Let's specify volumes. This volume should come under the volume, and now with the volume, let's mount the RabbitMQ data volume to the specific directory inside the container. So we need to, let's push this to the next one, and now here we are saying this is RabbitMQ _ data, then var library, then RabbitMQ. Okay, let's now define the Docker volume to be used for this service. So with this volume, we're going to define a volume name as RabbitMQ. Let's grab this. And now within that, you want to say this is a driver. Set this to local. So here we are using the local driver to manage the volume on the host machine. Okay, so this is what we need. Let's save this. You can go to, now you have the file here, right? So click on the project, go to open folder in File Explorer. So that is a Docker Compose file. Let's cut this to the project root. Let's paste it here. Okay. Now let's run this. But before we do it, let's open our terminal. So this is the terminal. And so let me just navigate to CD projects. And what is the name of this? I'll copy this. Let me get into this. So ls, I'm going to have the Docker Compose file here. So we're going to say Docker Compose app. Now this is run the project. Okay, because I have the same file running already. So let me have Docker Compose down. Okay, then let me add this. It seems I have to go to my and delete the container. I have this, so let me remove. Okay. Now when I come to my image. Okay, so this I'm not using. Let me remove this. Alright. Let's go back again to, and I believe for you, you're not going to have this. I am having that because of the one that I had already. So let's wait while it's attaching this to the RabbitMQ. It's going to put the image, and after putting this image, it's going to make sure it runs it. So if you're running it for the first time, it's going to pull this image from the Docker-Hub, and after that, it's going to make it run. So you wait until you see this. It tells you that yes, everything is moving on well. Okay, so it is now active. So you can see the application RabbitMQ management started on the node. So we have it started. And let's see. So we pulled our browser. And now let's open a new tab. And let's type in localhost. So from RabbitMQ management, localhost.15672. That is the port that we exposed to the in the Docker component to a UI, right? So the password, the credential that we used was guest, and the password also guest. So make sure you get in, and well, we are in. So this is a management UI. Now, for now, we have an exchange from our system, and you can see from here, there's nothing in here. So let's go to our project. We're going to run the third project. And after that, you're going to see an exchange. So go to this. Let's configure multiple startup projects. And now let's start other API, product API, and now the webhook. Apply this and start. Now let's wait and see while they start. Let's see what will happen. Yes, as soon as they all started, you see we have an email tool as a channel, or as an exchange connected. We have the product also exchange connected. And these are queues that we created: email webhook queue and our product queue. So you can see they are active here. And when you go to channels, we have all this. This is the username specified. When you go to overview, we have connections here is 3, exchange 11, queues are 2, right? We have them here. Now the next thing we're going to do here is, let's see. Now from our product API, we have 2 consumers. That is our notification hook and our other API. Let's go to queues. We have the 2 queues here. Currently, we have no incoming or data in here. Let's go to the product API. We're going to add a new product. Check it out. Let's say we don't need to specify the ID. Let's say this is Dell. Well, I'm going to say Dell desktop computer for the product. And on the price here, it is whatever price that you know you can mention of. Put it in there. Let's click on execute this. You want to save this to the database. And now I want to check in here, product successfully saved, right, or added. Now you can see when it comes to the product queue, one has been added and immediately it has been consumed by the other API. So when you go to the other API, and try to get our products, you're going to see in there. Let's view the database. So let me use DB browser as a package, or as an application that you can use to view an SQLite database. So this one, and I'm going to open database. So and I'm going for the other API, other DB. Now with this, click on browse data. Now this is other. There is no other here, but I go to product. You can see product has been added. Okay, so this is not product database. This is an other API database, but it has captured a copy of the product being added. We can also open. So when you go to, let's open another instance of this. So another DB browser. And now with this, we go into the product API and our product DB. So whenever we look here, this is product DB and this is other DB, right? Now with this product DB, you can see we have a product name here, and the other DB has a table known as product, which has exactly the same. Okay, let's add another one. So we go to, currently you can see our queue has none because this has consumed it. Let's add another one, API. So this is not Dell, but this is HP. And the price here, let's execute. We're going to have a queue here as 1 and immediately going to be consumed by the other API. So this is done. And you didn't see this, it came as a flash. But when you go to a database, this is our product. If you want to refresh this, you're going to have the HP added. When you go to the other API, refresh this, and you have it in here. Okay. Now let's say that the other API, it is not active, it is not well, so it is down. So let's close all this. Let's run only the product API. You know, the other API is listening to the product API's data, isn't it? Now the other API is down, only the product API is running. Let's see. Now we're going to add data to the database table. It's going to be published to the RabbitMQ server, and it's going to be kept there until the other API consumes it. So as soon as the API becomes live, it goes in there now and consume that. Let's add the next one. So instead of HP, we're going to say we have our Dell. This time we're going for laptop, computer. Now the price, we have that. Now click on execute. Now let's make sure you're going to have it has been added here. You can see product added successfully. Now you can see from a product queue we have one. Let's add another one. This is HP. Execute this. It has been added, and we have, it should be 2 now. Yes, we have 2. Now the other API, it is down, it's not consuming, so this will be there until the other API consumes it. You see? Now let's see. So let's assume the API was down, it was having an issue, and now it is fixed. So we're going to run this other API. When we check our database table from our product API, refresh this, we have 3 and 4 added. Come to the other API, refresh this, and still 2. You see? So that's the beautiful of the asynchronous microservices. They are independent. So when a publish is being made, it will be kept until the subscriber is active. Let's run our other API. So I click on this, go to debug, and I'll start new instance. As soon as it starts, let's see what's going to happen. It's going to consume this. Let's wait for it to start. So you can see it is starting, and as soon as it gets started, it's going to consume this. Yeah, so it has started. Now you see that's ready. Something changed here, isn't it? All right, let's refresh this. Now where is it? It has consumed it. Let's verify. So go to our product, not the product, other DB. Now refresh this, and we have it. Fantastic. That's nice. All right, so now this is working, and Webhook is also going to work same. The next thing I'm going to do here is we need to create a fake account for our email for this purpose. And have you heard of Ethereal email? That is going to mimic a work of email service and get us some fake email. Okay, so let's go in there. Let's have a look with that. We go to Ethereal. Ethereal.email. Now let's create an email. It's a fake email. Now you have this email. Now when you come here, you see you have all the details that you're going to use for your configuration. So let's first see. There's a username. So let's grab this. Then let's go to our email service. And here is from we pass in here to we assign to ourselves. Then authentication, let's pass in here. This email has given us password, so grab this password. And now let's come to the password. It is, what kind of socket is it using? It is using where is it TLS. So we have it already. Port is 587. TLS port 587. Check it out. TLS port 587. Magic. Okay, then what again? That is a host. So let's grab this, and that is a host. That is all, isn't it? Don't try to use this email, because as soon as I'm done, it is off, because it's not an original email. So you can create your own for this test. This is used for testing only. All right, so now we're going to, as soon as you run this, you're going to make an order. So let's also run this. Email, right click on this, start new instance. Now when this also runs, we're going to make an order from our order API, which is already running. And then this webhook is also going to be listening, which will get fired as soon as an order is made, because we have the key already in a place. All right, so it is ready. As you can see from here, this is ready. Let's open an order. Where is our order API? So this is another API. Let's make an order. So click on this, try this out. Now product ID is one is Dell, so you want to buy Dell. Oh, not this one. Product ID is Dell. How many do you want to buy? How many pieces you're buying for my studio or your studio? So pass in the number, 40 pieces. Wow, quite expensive. And I'll click on execute this. As soon as this gets saved, okay, so we're having an issue here. Unable to resolve the service for this. It seems we haven't registered the order. Oh God. So let's go and do that. I believe you've done that, isn't it? So you created an order service. I order an order repo, but we did not register. So that's a beautiful of using testing. So when you have a test for this, when you create unit testing for this, by now you need to have been facing this issue, because the unit test will pop that one out. Okay, so builder.services dot add scope, then I order, let me say order service, order repo, order service. Now let's rerun it again. From our order API, right click, debug, and start new instance again. Okay, so this is running, and our RabbitMQ is still available. When you go to our database, that is our order database. When you refresh it, you go to your orders, no order found, because you haven't added any order yet. Let's put it sideways. Our product queue or email webhook queue also empty. Let's pull up our order. We want to order product ID of 1. Still, I'm buying 40 pieces. Execute this. As soon as we have order successful place, let's wait and see. Okay, still processing. All right, so we have order placed successfully. Let's check our queue. You see we have one queue, right, where it's going to be consumed by the webhook. So we have our webhook also ready. Is it running? So I think our webhook is down. That's the reason why even when we refresh it, we still have one in there. Let's run our webhook to consume that. So also start new instance. So let's wait and see. After consuming, we're going to check our email. And now this is our email, so we can go to the email. And here you have nothing in here, right? This is the default one. This is your email, default one. After the consumption, we will go in there and verify. Let's check, verify our RabbitMQ. Yeah, that's consumed. So if I refresh it, yes, ready one is there. And okay, so we have an issue here. We have an issue. We may kill error. Let's find out first. Maybe we can check our email and see in case it isn't here. Yes, it isn't here. That means there's an issue. Let's go through it again and now have a look second time. So that is our webhook. We have the packages installed. We go to our program. Then in here, this is running on, our webhook is running on 7078 HTTPS. So we have a webhook down here set, localhost, username and password connected, email webhook queue, right? So webhook, partner context. And that is what we need to do. Let's go to our consumer, HTTP client. Okay. So the reason why we're having here is we're also using HTTP client here, but we are not registering this client. We are registering this client against the service. Meanwhile, this service, we are not using HTTP client here. You see? So that's the reason why it is giving us the error. So let's go and use service.addScope. Okay, then let's register an HTTP client. Okay, so let me check this again. You go to our queues. We still have this. Let's see if now it has been corrected. Let's see if this is going to work. So start new. So let's go and make an order again. But it seems this is off. We go to the other API. Let's start with that debugging and make another order and check it out. So our queue is ready. Let's see. We make another order, and that is 2 for HP. We want to buy 20 pieces. Before that, let me check the email. Okay, execute this. Order placed. And when you check this, we have one over here, right? That is in an email webhook queue. Let's refresh and see if it has been consumed successfully. Let's go to our email. Click on this. Oh well, we have it. So we have an other information. Click on it, and there you go. There's an other information, order ID, item description. That is a name. We have a price, quantity, and that is the total amount. There's an order date. Thank you for your order. So that is it. Congratulations for completing this course. You've now mastered the essentials of building asynchronous microservices with RabbitMQ and MassTransit. And you've seen how powerful this architecture can be for creating scalable and a resilient system. You've seen how you can attach a webhook also to it, specifically email webhook to send emails based on an occurrence of an event. By embracing asynchronous communication, you are equipped to build systems that are not only efficient, but also flexible and responsive to the needs of your users. Remember that the skills that you've gained here can be applied to a wide range of real-world projects, and the concept of asynchronous microservices like RabbitMQ and Webhooks will be invaluable as you continue to grow as a developer. Thank you for joining me in this course. I hope you found it insightful and empowering. Don't forget to share your success stories and projects in the comments. I'd like to see how you are applying this and how you've learned. Until next time, keep coding, stay curious, and catch you again.